Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is there. That way, YouTube will keep showing you more stories like this. Now, let's begin.
My name's Sarah. I'm 23, and I work the night shift at a 7-Eleven out in the suburbs of Arlington. Most of the folks who come in that late are truckers or people driving in from who knows where just to grab gas and some caffeine. That morning, it was around 6. The sky was starting to lighten up. I was at the back, counting the cash in the safe, last thing I had to do before clocking out. Then I heard the bell over the door. First customer of the day. He was tall, with a thick beard. "Morning, large coffee?" he said. "How do you take it? Sugar? Cream?" "Just black." I stopped counting and grabbed a cup, moving quick. He smelled like diesel fuel and stale sweat. I cringed just a little as I turned to pour the coffee. Through the front window, I caught sight of a big rig parked outside. Yeah, definitely a trucker. I handed him the coffee. He dropped some change on the counter but didn't leave. Just stood there, sipping, eyes drifting around the store. "You working alone?" That caught me off guard. I tried to play it cool. "Not really. My coworker's coming in soon." He gave a slow nod, eyes still locked on me. "It isn't safe for a girl working nights like this." He sipped his coffee again, still watching me. "Hey, you know how to get to Vegas? I think I'm lost." I pointed to the map we had taped up on the wall. My hands were starting to sweat, but he didn't even look at the map, just kept staring. "How old are you?" he asked. Something in me said not to answer. "You look really young. Still in college?" He stepped in closer to the counter. I could see the stains on his shirt now, and the body odor hit me harder. "Where do you live? Far from here?" My heart started pounding. I instinctively stepped back, reaching under the counter, feeling around for my phone. He smiled. That kind of smile that makes your skin crawl. "Hey now, don't be scared. I'm just making conversation." He planted both hands on the counter and leaned in. "You got a boyfriend? Someone picking you up?" I didn't say anything, just stared out the front, praying someone would pull in. It felt like being locked in a cage with something dangerous. "Why aren't you answering me?" He stepped closer, just one table between us now. "I'm just trying to get to know you." I took a shaky breath. "Sir, there are security cameras in here." I pointed up toward the ceiling, hoping that would make him back off. He glanced up, then gave a lazy smirk. I didn't do anything. He drained the last of his coffee, then chucked the cup at the trash can so hard I flinched. "Hey, you drive to work, or someone drop you off?" Still no answer from me. I couldn't hide the fear on my face anymore. He started walking down one of the aisles, but his eyes never left mine. "You know, I like young girls." I glanced at the door. It was too far. He could easily cut me off if I ran. "Let's go get coffee somewhere else. I know a quiet little spot." The way he looked at me, the way he said it, the way he just stood there, casually blocking the exit. It felt planned. All of it. Then he started acting weird, pressing both hands to his face, grinning like a little kid. I froze. My heart was hammering in my chest. Then he started whistling, his head bobbing side to side like some drunk. "Sarah!" he called out, all giddy. I glanced down at my name tag in panic. My hands were shaking as I fumbled for my phone under the counter. And then he started counting down. 10, 9, 8. His voice got lower with each number. Slower, but creepier. And then, like fate throwing me a lifeline, I heard an engine pull up outside. My heart damn near leapt out of my chest. It was Mike the mechanic. He worked over at the plant down the road. He always stopped in for coffee before his shift. The second I saw Mike, the The weight on my chest lifted. I called out, "Mike!" and shot him a "please help me" look. He caught on fast. He glanced at me, then clocked the trucker standing in the middle of the store. "Sarah," he said loud and clear. The guy turned to him, sizing him up. Mike was shorter, but built like a tank with tattoos and scars on his arms. The kind of guy you don't mess with. "You know this girl too?" he asked. "I'm a regular," Mike said calmly. "What about you?" "Just stopped in for some coffee." But he wasn't going anywhere. He just stood there, arms locked in front of him, still blocking the damn exit. Mike stepped up to the counter, right between me and him. "Same coffee as always," he said, then turned to face the guy. The whole store went dead quiet. The guy didn't move. He sneered and gave Mike a once-over like he thought he had the upper hand. Then, real slow, he reached into his pocket. Just enough so we could see the handle of a knife. My blood ran cold. Mike saw it too. His expression changed in an instant, eyes like ice. "I'd think twice before doing something stupid," Mike said. The guy raised an eyebrow. "Or what? What are you gonna do?" He stroked the knife handle like he was itching to escalate. The tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. I choked up, trembling as I watched the two men face off. Mike had his fists clenched, eyes locked and dead serious, completely dialed in. The tension hung in the air for a few more seconds. Then finally, the driver slowly pulled his hands out of his pockets and started backing away. "All right, just this once," he muttered. He turned and walked toward the door. Mike didn't move, just kept his cold stare fixed on the guy. At the door, the driver stopped. He turned back, gave me this eerie little smile. "Bye, Sarah. I'll be back." The sound of his truck engine faded into the distance, and I collapsed into the chair behind the counter, my whole body shaking like a leaf. Mike came over, his voice soft. "You okay, Sarah?" I nodded, but the tears wouldn't stop. Relief mixed with fear, spilling over. "Thank you, Mike. I don't even want to think about what could have happened if you hadn't walked in." I didn't call the cops. I just wanted that day to disappear. After that, Mike and I got a lot closer. We've been in this kind of interesting stage. He swings by the store a few times a day now, and I still work there. Only now I keep a taser and a can of pepper spray under the counter. Hopefully I'll never have to use them. I'm Katie, 14, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona, with my sister Elise, who's 15. It was a Friday, late July, and the heat was absolutely brutal. Mom was working the afternoon shift at the hospital. Dad was off on some business trip, so it was just me and Elise holding down the fort. "Hey, Katie, want to go snag a free Slurpee?" Elise called out from the living room. 7-Eleven is running promos today. I rolled out of bed and slid into my sandals, jean shorts, and a pink tank top. Plenty for this kind of weather. Elise was already waiting by the door, keys in hand. The 7-Eleven was just a couple blocks from our house, like a 10-minute walk, tops. Phoenix streets were dead quiet in the afternoon. "Don't go overboard with the snacks," Elise warned as we stepped into the store. The little bell above the door jingled, and the blast of cold AC felt like heaven. The guy behind the counter gave us a nod. We knew him pretty well from all the candy runs. I made a beeline for the Slurpee machine, grabbed a medium cup, and went all in on strawberry. Elise filled up a large one, mixing cherry and blueberry. While she was still messing with the lid, I drifted over to the snack aisle. Bright orange Doritos bags jumped out at me from the shelf, right next to rows of Haribo gummies and stacks of Hershey bars. I was doing some quick math in my head, figuring out if I had enough change for another pack of M&Ms, when a voice suddenly came from right next to me. "Hey there, pretty girl." I turned around. There was a woman standing nearby, brown hair pulled back, wearing a white blouse. In her arms was a little dog, kind of fawn-colored, panting like crazy. "Hey," I said, trying to be polite. "Do you like dogs? His name's Peanut," she said, holding him out to me. Peanut licked his nose and stuck his tongue out, looking up at me with those big round eyes. "Oh, yeah, he's adorable," I said, reaching out to pet his head. His fur was super soft and warm. "What's your name?" she asked. "Katie." "Katie, could you do me a quick favor? I really need to use the bathroom, but they don't let dogs in the store. Would you mind watching Peanut for a minute? Just right outside." I glanced over at Elise. She was still by the Slurpee machine, back turned, totally focused. "Sure, I can do that," I nodded. "Thank you so much. I'll be fast." She handed me Peanut. He was lighter than I thought, maybe 3 pounds, tops. We stepped outside. I realized I never asked her name. The sun was still beating down, hot as ever. I stood under the awning in the shade, gently stroking Peanut's fur. The dog just lay there quietly in my arms. "Katie, come here for a sec," the woman called out from near the parking lot. I blinked. Wait, when did she come outside? She was standing next to a blue van, side door wide open. There was a tall guy standing beside her. "Come here, Katie. I want to show you something," she said, waving me over. I started walking toward the parking lot, still holding Peanut tight. But the second I got close to the van, the guy grabbed my left arm. "Get in the car," he snapped. His voice was rough. His hand clamped down on my arm, huge, calloused fingers digging into my skin. I gasped and dropped Peanut. The little dog bolted. I tried to yank my arm away, but he was way stronger than me. "No, let me go," I screamed. "I said get in the car." He started dragging me toward the open van. Inside, I saw a nasty gray carpet and rope. "Katie, let go of my sister." Elise's voice cut through the air like a whip. She came running out of the store, her Slurpee flying out of her hand and exploding on the pavement, ice and soda everywhere. "Help! He's trying to kidnap her!" she screamed. The clerk came running out of the store, another guy right behind him. Over by the gas pumps, someone jumped out of a red car. The man let go of me instantly. I dropped to the ground, scraping both my knees on the pavement. "Let's go," the woman shouted. They both dove into the car. The engine roared to life. It backed out fast, tires screeching as it tore down the street. I caught a glimpse of the license plate, Arizona, and the numbers 736, but I couldn't remember the exact order. Elise threw her arms around me. I was shaking all over, heart pounding like crazy. The clerk pulled out his phone and called 911. "You okay?" he asked, his face full of worry. I couldn't answer. My knees were stinging and bleeding, and I felt completely out of it. Elise didn't say anything either. She just kept holding on to me, breathing fast. About 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers took our statements. They asked me to describe the guy, the woman, and the car. They said it looked like a planned kidnapping. Mom showed up not long after Elise called her. She hugged us tight and cried. Dad booked the earliest flight back to Phoenix. That night, at dinner, I still couldn't stop shaking. I kept seeing the guy's cold eyes and feeling his hand crushing my arm. Elise sat beside me, holding my hand the whole time. "From now on," Mom said, "you girls do not go anywhere alone, and you always tell us where you're going." I nodded. I got it now. The world wasn't as safe as I'd thought. The next morning, the 7-Eleven clerk called my mom. He'd found Peanut wandering near the store, hungry, thirsty, and totally lost. Poor little guy. He'd been part of their plan, and they didn't even care what happened to him. "Can we keep him, Mom?" I asked, while she was telling us about the call. Mom looked at Dad, then Elise. "If no one comes forward after a week, we'll make it official," she said. A week passed. No one called. No one claimed him. The police checked. Peanut didn't have a chip. They said he was probably just used as bait, so we adopted him. Just like that, Peanut became part of our family. Now every night when I cuddle Peanut close, I think about how one good thing came out of that awful day. This little dog got a new home, and I got a little buddy who'll always remind me just how lucky I was to get away.
I am Brenda, 27 years old, and I live in Chicago. I work an office job with a mid-range and stable salary. My working hours are regular office hours, except when there are new projects, in which case I have to work overtime. Life and work are stable, and I'm enjoying everything happily. It was the end of a fateful evening 2 years ago. I left the office when the clock struck 10 p.m., my stomach growling with hunger. Not wanting to cook when I got home, I decided to stop by the nearby 7-Eleven to grab some fast food. The road was quiet, with only the dim streetlights stretching out into faint streaks of light. As I stepped into the store, the bell rang behind me, signaling that someone had entered right after me. A strong body odor wafted up, making me frown. I turned around and saw a man. I quickly took long strides to keep my distance from him because of the unpleasant smell. I quickly walked to the fast food counter, unsure of what to choose, but the unpleasant smell returned. Looking up, I saw the man standing close by. His face was haggard, eyes sunken, and he clutched a large backpack tightly to his chest. His gaze tense, as if waiting for something. I flinched slightly as I realized my odd behavior and quickly turned away, trying not to look anymore. But when our eyes suddenly met, my heart raced. A feeling of unease crept through my entire body. I grabbed a bottle of water nearby and hastily picked something from the snack shelf, quickly heading to the checkout counter. I placed my items on the counter, but he stepped forward immediately, placing 2 bottles of water down as well. His gaze was fixed on me, intense and haunting. The backpack was slammed down onto the counter with a loud thud, making both me and the cashier jump and turn to look. At that moment, a loud voice rang out from outside. "Jayunte Gregory, surrender immediately!" I froze, and the cashier was equally startled, her eyes wide as she stared towards the door. 2 police officers appeared, standing outside with their guns aimed at the store. The man, the one they called Jayunte Gregory, bent down to the backpack, pulling out a large gun. Everything unfolded like an action movie, but I knew I wasn't the audience. I was an extra in this scene, and those extras are usually innocent bystanders, hit by bullets in just a few seconds. The man, presumably Jayunte, started firing shots towards the door where the 2 police officers were standing. The gunshots rang out deafeningly, plunging the entire store into chaos. The cashier screamed loudly, diving under the counter to take cover. I wasn't sure if I had screamed or not, but I remembered quickly finding a small corner between the shelves to hide. The entire store shook with the sound of gunfire, and items fell from the shelves, crashing to the floor in pieces. My heart raced so fast, it felt like it was about to overload and explode. I curled up in the corner, my hands clutching my head, praying continuously and trying not to cry out loud, but the tears kept flowing. In my mind, there was only one thought: please don't let him see me. Outside, the police officers shouted loudly, demanding that Jayunte stop and surrender. But in response, the sound of gunshots kept ringing out. Each shot felt like a knife slicing through my endurance. The air in the store was thick with the smell of gunpowder, and I began to feel dizzy. Fear seemed to choke every thought in my mind. Then, suddenly, everything went silent. I dared not move, dared not breathe too loudly, as if the entire world had frozen in place. A shadow flashed past the store, and I realized it was Jayunte Gregory. He rushed outside, trying to escape. But immediately, 3 sharp gunshots rang out. I heard one of the officers shout loudly, "Target has been neutralized!" I don't know if I exhaled or screamed. My whole body was trembling, and the tears kept flowing. I couldn't move. My limbs stiffened as if they were turned to stone. When the police entered the store, they asked something, but I couldn't hear it. My ears were ringing, and my mind went blank. A medical worker quickly helped me out and into the ambulance. Sitting in the ambulance, I watched the flashing lights of police cars and emergency vehicles, still trapped in a state of panic. I thought about the moment when Jayunte's gaze was fixed on me, the gunshots echoing in the small space of the store, and the feeling of hopelessness as I wondered whether I would survive. 9 years ago, on a fall afternoon, I met Jack Sparrow at a Dollar Tree store. But that captain was not a famous hero. He was a living, breathing nightmare. I was 13 at the time, living in a small town in San Bernardino County, California. I remember it was close to Halloween. My family's atmosphere was as spooky as the holiday decorations. My parents were in the process of getting a divorce, and tense arguments happened every day. They didn't care if I was there to witness it. I became a quiet kid, retreating into my own world. I didn't have any friends because I was so introverted, so I spent most of my free time drawing. I would draw everything I could imagine and all my dreams. I saved every penny to buy drawing supplies. The Dollar Tree made me feel more comfortable than I did at home. It was 3 blocks away. I usually biked there 2 or 3 times a week, and each time I felt excited thinking about the new art supplies I would find. That day was after school. I was excited to go to Dollar Tree because I knew the store would be empty at that time. After I parked my bike, I walked into the store and went straight to the craft section, which was having a sale. I was holding a set of color pencils and a few bottles of paint. I was planning my next drawing when I suddenly heard a hiccup behind me. I turned around and saw a man standing very close behind me. He was dressed up as Jack Sparrow. His long brown hair was tied in messy dreadlocks. A red scarf was wrapped around his head, a dirty white shirt, and a brown leather jacket. One of his eyes had an eye patch on it, and the other was bloodshot. The strong smell of alcohol coming from his clothes made me take a few steps back. "Sorry, I didn't see you there." At first I thought he was just role-playing, but his continuous hiccups and the way he was swaying made me realize he was drunk. He stared at me. "What do you think of this outfit?" he asked in a slurred voice. "It looks like Jack Sparrow," I replied shortly. I just wanted to end this conversation quickly. His mouth dropped open in astonishment, as if I had said something unbelievable. He continued to look at me with a crazy look in his eyes. "No, it's not. I'm the real Jack Sparrow. I'm the captain." I didn't know how to react. A small laugh escaped my mouth. I felt both amused and a little confused by his attitude. "Answer your captain," he yelled, his voice threatening. The mix of annoyance and fear made me snap. "You're the worst Jack Sparrow I've ever seen." After saying that, I turned around and quickly walked away. My heart was pounding in my chest. Luckily, he didn't follow me. A few minutes later, I went to the checkout counter to pay. I looked around the store and felt relieved when I didn't see that strange man anywhere. I finished paying and walked outside. That's when the real nightmare began. I remember exactly where I had parked my bike next to the trash can, but now my bike was no longer there. I looked around in confusion, and then a laugh suddenly rang out, followed by the sound of a bicycle bell. I was sure it was my bike. I was determined not to go home without it. With shaky steps, I walked into the parking lot. There were a few cars scattered around. At the end of the parking lot, a figure was sitting on a bicycle. It was that scary Jack Sparrow again. It wasn't hard for me to recognize that outfit. I tried to stay calm. "That's my bike. Give it back to me." When he heard my voice, he slowly turned his head and suddenly yelled, "You need to find yourself a girl." After he said that, he started pedaling, riding straight toward me. I screamed and turned around, running for my life. Behind me, his crazy laughter rang out like a demon's voice. All I felt was panic. "I'm gonna get you! I'm gonna get you!" He kept yelling behind me. I ran out of the parking lot and onto the highway. I ran in the opposite direction of the Dollar Tree, hoping to find someone who could help. His laughter got louder and louder. He was getting closer and closer, clearly enjoying this game of intimidation. I was getting tired, and my running speed slowed down. I was about to collapse in the middle of the road when I saw a large truck approaching me from a distance. I started waving my hands frantically. "Stop! Please stop!" I yelled toward the truck. The driver noticed me and honked his horn. I turned back and saw the man had stopped pedaling. He looked at me, then at the truck. When he realized the truck was going to stop, he looked angry. He slowly got off the bike and kicked it really hard. The bike fell to the ground, and the bells shattered. Then he turned and ran to the other side of the road and disappeared. When the truck driver let me and my broken bike in, I was completely exhausted. My shirt was soaked with sweat, and I was out of breath as if I had just run a marathon. I mumbled a thank you and gave him my home address. The driver was an older man. He looked at me with concern, but didn't ask any more questions. Other than giving me directions home, I didn't say anything. When he dropped me off in front of my house, I thanked him again for his help and went straight to my room. I didn't go out for almost a week after that. Every time I heard a bicycle bell on the street, my heart would pound, and I would get goosebumps all over my body. The reason I never shared this experience with anyone is because I knew no one would take it as a real threat. People would think that crazy guy was just joking, or worse, they wouldn't believe me. A 13-year-old kid talking about being chased by a guy dressed as Jack Sparrow sounds ridiculous, but I know what I went through was real. And not a single night goes by that I don't have nightmares about that crazy captain. He's riding a bicycle, chasing me in the dark, with his crazy laughter echoing endlessly. I'm Beth, 32 years old, and a part-time cashier. My husband works at a factory. We have 2 kids, Emma, 7, and Jake, 5. Dollar Tree has always been a special place for my family. It's one of the few places where we can go shopping together without feeling financial pressure. Even just walking around is a fun family outing. My husband got a raise at the factory that day and decided to take the whole family to Dollar Tree. Each of us would get to choose one item we liked. Jake and Emma excitedly ran straight to the toy section. My husband looked for a toolkit, and I went to the back of the store to find the brown wooden picture frame I had my eye on last week. The single frame was perfect for our family photo. I was happy imagining putting it on my nightstand, with a family photo inside to look at every night before bed. As soon as I picked up the picture frame, a hard push from behind made me stumble. I looked back, and it was a large, muscular woman wearing brand-name sportswear. I protested her pushing me, but she became even more malicious, insulting my family in a nasty way. My patience had a limit. I slapped her, grabbed the picture frame back, and left with the words, "If you're so rich, then don't shop at this Dollar Tree." The woman stood there, frozen, her face as red as a tomato. Her anger built up by the second, and the veins on her face were visible. She went from being a normal Karen to a raging gorilla who could attack at any moment. I didn't care. I simply went back to my family and continued shopping. At the checkout counter, we all got the items we wanted and felt very happy. Suddenly, I saw the woman standing outside the store, right next to the glass door, staring at us with an angry expression. I knew something was wrong. I thought we might run into her on our way out. But when I looked up again, she was gone. We walked out to the parking lot and got into the car, ready to leave. But when my husband turned the key, the car started but couldn't move. He tried several times, with a confused look on his face. I think there's a problem with the tire. Suddenly, a thunderous banging came from outside the car. I saw the big woman from earlier appear. She was holding a long metal pipe, her face distorted with rage. She was swinging it with terrifying strength. Each hit shook the entire car. Emma and Jake screamed in terror. I immediately understood. She wasn't trying to get in. She wanted to destroy the car with us inside. "How dare you put your filthy hands on me? I'm gonna kill you and your damn cockroach family!" My husband got out of the car to stop her, even though I silently begged him not to. But as soon as he got close, the woman was ready like a predator. She pulled a taser out of her pocket and shot it at my husband. Then she continued to hit him in the knees with the metal pipe. He screamed in pain and fell to the ground. But the gorilla didn't stop. She stomped on his face and ground her shoes on him like she was killing a cockroach, a look of sick pleasure on her face. I quickly got out of the car, thinking of nothing but saving my husband. But I was no match for her. She turned to me with a vicious smile and hit me in the stomach with the pipe with all her might. The pain exploded. I fell to the ground, unable to breathe. As I lay there, curled up, she hit my knees with the pipe again. We lay on the ground, writhing in pain. I tried to look at the car. Jake and Emma were still screaming inside. Luckily, she seemed satisfied and walked away. But the nightmare wasn't over. As we tried to get up, the woman came back with a can in her hand. The crazy woman started pouring the liquid from inside all over our car. The strong smell of gasoline filled the air. I froze for a few seconds. My kids were in there. I tried to crawl as fast as I could to stop her. My husband did the same, but he was more seriously injured and was behind me. When I saw her take out a lighter, I knew everything was about to become the most horrible nightmare. I screamed and cried like a mad woman. Suddenly, a big man rushed over and pushed her hard, and she fell down. The lighter flew far away. He quickly opened the car door and pulled Jake and Emma to safety. I collapsed, completely relieved. My husband hugged me tightly, and we both cried. The police had arrived. The woman lay on the ground, still smiling even though she was handcuffed. Her eyes were still full of hatred. She stared at me and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "Next time I'm gonna kill your family." Even as the police car drove away, her crazy laughter echoed in the air, haunting my mind. After the incident, her family kept calling, offering money for us to drop the lawsuit. They said she had a mental illness and needed treatment, not jail time. But we refused. A monster like that should not be free. Looking back on what happened, I feel prouder of my little family than ever before. My husband didn't hesitate to step out and protect us even though he knew the danger, and the two kids bravely got through that horrible situation. We may not be rich, but the love and unity in our family are the most precious treasures that no one can take away.
I'm Oscar, 30 years old. I've been working at this 7-Eleven for 3 years now. My shift that day was from 4 p.m. to midnight, usually the busiest time. I had about 30 minutes left on my shift. I was counting money in the register when I heard the bell chime, signaling a customer. A tall man walked in, wearing a baseball cap that hid half his face. I politely greeted him and asked if he needed any help, but the man didn't answer, just quietly walked along the aisles. I went back to what I was doing, occasionally glancing up to make sure he wasn't doing anything weird. After about 5 minutes, he brought a bottle of whiskey, a pack of cigarettes, and some snacks to the counter. When I was ringing up the items, I could feel his heavy breath on my face. The strong smell of alcohol and cigarettes hit my nose, mixed with a sour body odor. He stood pressed against the counter, so close I could count every stubby beard hair on his chin. I told him the total, trying to keep my voice normal. He slowly pulled out his wallet, dragging the motion out as if trying to stall, then handed me a $50 bill. When I gave him his change, his rough fingers brushed against my palm. I quickly pulled my hand back. Just then, he looked up, and his face became clear. "Remember me, buddy?" I froze, staring at every feature on his face. Suddenly, memories flooded back. A week ago, I had caught him harassing a girl. I immediately called the police to help. Before the police took him away, he threatened to come back and get revenge on me. At the time, I only felt a little annoyed, not too concerned. Back to facing him in that moment. The blood in my veins felt like it was freezing. I didn't show my panic. I looked at the register and kept working. And then his expression changed. The corner of his mouth slowly curled into a disgusting grin. I tried to stay calm and politely answered to get him to move on. "I see a lot of customers, so I can't remember all of them." He sneered. "You're the jerk who called the cops last week. How dare you butt into my business?" I didn't know how to react. The store was empty, no other customers, and my co-worker was in the back storeroom. My hand slowly moved under the counter, where the alarm button was. "If you don't have anything else, I'm going to continue my work." But he didn't budge after my words. His right hand was still on the counter, but his left hand had slipped inside his jacket. My gut told me that wasn't a good sign. I tried to reach for the alarm button, but he was faster. His large hand reached over the counter, gripped my wrist tightly, and squeezed hard. His eyes wide, he leaned close to me and growled a warning. "Don't try anything sneaky." I tried to think calmly. The landline phone was at the other end of the counter, about 6 feet away from me. The security cameras were recording, but no one was actively watching. I knew I had to save myself. He chuckled. "That girl was my girlfriend. Because of you, I was locked up for a week." I argued with him about his bad treatment of that girl. That was the biggest mistake of my life. In a flash, his hand pulled a handgun from his jacket, the click as he cocked it. My heart stopped for a beat. His eyes gleamed with hatred, his face contorted with rage. From the words spewing from his mouth, I knew this was a violent and controlling man. The landline phone at the end of the counter was my only salvation at that moment. I yanked my arm out of his grasp and lunged for the phone. Only one thought was in my head. I needed to call for help. He was as fast as a predator, his large body leaping over the counter with incredible strength, kicking away the chair blocking his path. His heavy weight slammed into me, pinning me to the floor. A crack echoed. The air was forced out of my lungs. I gasped like a stranded fish, trying to breathe. I struggled wildly, but it was like an ant trying to push a boulder. His hand tightened around my neck, while his other hand still held the gun. The cold barrel pressed against my temple. Blood rushed to my brain, my vision blurring from lack of oxygen. I whispered pleas, but they only came out as faint gasps. He laughed with amusement. He was enjoying the power of holding someone's life in his hands. My body slowly gave up. This must be it, I thought. Suddenly, a loud shout, "You bastard!" immediately followed by the sound of shattering glass. It was Max, my co-worker. The man roared, immediately let go of me, and recoiled. I gasped, taking in as much oxygen as I could. Max ran over, pulled me up, and we both scrambled into the storeroom, locking the door. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The man knew he couldn't escape, so he rushed outside with the gun in his hand. A tense shootout ensued. We huddled in the storeroom, covering our ears because of the deafening gunshots. A few minutes later, everything went silent. Max and I, following police orders, moved outside. The man lay motionless on the street with blood and a few bullet wounds. I sank to my knees, my body still trembling. Max sat beside me. "It's over, Oscar. You're safe now." I looked at Max and smiled, letting out a long breath. Thank God I had just escaped death's door. I understood that I could have lost my life just for doing the right thing, but if I could go back to that day again, I would still choose to help that girl.
It's been a few years, but I still can't forget what I saw on the security camera that morning. The image of the back door of the gas station slowly opening, but no one walking out. I'm Megan, 32 years old. I work the morning shift at an old gas station in a small town in Montana. It's pretty remote, with just a few gas pumps, a small convenience store, and a gravel parking lot in the back. I would arrive at 6 a.m. to take over for the night shift employee, a woman named Dora. The stillness of this place, especially before the sun was fully up, always made me feel a little uneasy. It was a morning in autumn. I arrived at the gas station about 10 minutes earlier than usual. When I walked into the convenience store, a middle-aged man was standing at the counter, his hands in his pockets, looking a little grumpy. The counter was empty. I guessed this customer had been waiting for a while and was getting annoyed. "Dora?" I called out loudly, but there was no answer. I quickly apologized to the man and checked him out. After the man left, I looked around the store. The counter was as neat as usual, the cash register was locked, and the shelves were not disturbed. I went to the back stockroom and called out a few more times. I checked the bathroom, but there was no sign of Dora. On the break room table, I saw her phone. I wondered if she had an emergency and left without having time to let me know. I ran outside and looked at the parking lot. Dora's car was still parked near the back. A feeling of confusion started to rise in me. Dora always followed work procedures. No matter what, she would always inform me and the boss about the situation. I called my boss and briefly told him everything. My boss told me to check the security camera and call the police if necessary. I opened the computer at the counter and logged into the CCTV system. The station had 3 cameras, one at the counter, one at the gas pumps, and one in the back parking lot. My hands trembled a little as I rewound the footage from 4 a.m. when Dora was still at the counter. The video began with Dora standing behind the counter, occasionally glancing at the clock on the wall. She looked normal, maybe just a little tired from the long night shift. Then suddenly she looked up, her eyes directed toward the back door, as if she had just heard something. After a few seconds of listening, Dora quickly stepped away from the counter and went straight toward the back door. I immediately switched to the parking lot camera, not understanding why I felt so tense. The screen showed the door slowly opening, the hinges creaking softly, but there was no Dora, no one there at all. I rewound it in slow motion, my eyes glued to the screen, watching every second. The door opened. The air seemed to stand still, then the door closed. I still didn't see her. "No way, what is this?" I mumbled to myself. I checked the time again, making sure the 2 cameras were perfectly synchronized. The camera wasn't broken. Everything else on the screen looked completely normal. Dora's car, the trash can behind the store. But Dora seemed to have vanished into the darkness. A feeling of fear washed over me, making my hands and feet go cold. I tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe she had stayed close to the wall, avoiding the camera's angle, and then ran straight into the pine forest behind. But why would she do that? Did someone call her out? Or was someone waiting, threatening her? These thoughts made me shiver and look around the store. Suddenly I felt scared of this familiar place. I called the police. While waiting, I went out to the parking lot and stood right at the back door, observing everything. The ground was covered with gravel and dry leaves. The dense pine forest was about 50 yards away. I imagined Dora running in there, but for what reason? Where did she go? The police arrived. They thoroughly checked the store, the parking lot, and re-watched the video. An officer took careful notes and asked me about Dora. I told him what I knew. Dora was 28, lived alone in a small apartment near downtown Livingston, and had been working the night shift for 2 years. The officer asked if Dora had any enemies, or if there was anyone suspicious in the area. I was stunned for a few seconds. I said I didn't know. Dora and I weren't close enough to know too much about each other. The police checked Dora's car. The door was unlocked, and the keys were still in the ignition. A cup of cold coffee was on the passenger seat, next to a neatly folded sweater. There were no signs of a struggle or an attack. The police called a search team, but the forest was too vast, and the autumn wind had caused a thick layer of fallen leaves, covering any possible traces. Dora's apartment was also searched, but there was nothing unusual. No clues were found. In the following weeks, the story of Dora's disappearance spread throughout the town. The local newspaper published a short article asking for information from the public. A few people said they had seen Dora, but the information they provided was not helpful. 3 years have passed, and Dora is still missing without a trace. I still work at the gas station, but every time I open the back door to take out the trash, I always feel a strange, cold draft. I don't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but I can't understand how Dora disappeared. Was she afraid of something in the forest? Or was someone really waiting in the darkness where the camera couldn't record? I always want to believe that Dora simply quit her job and is living peacefully somewhere far away. But then, every time the back door creaks open in the wind, I find myself involuntarily turning my head, half hoping, half afraid, that Dora will walk in. I am Claire, 26 years old, a college student in the morning, and a night shift employee at a 24-hour quick-trip convenience store in the evening. This job wasn't an ideal choice, but it helped me manage rent and buy little things. On quiet nights in the store, the fluorescent lights are cold and bright, and the neon sign outside flickers occasionally as if it might go out. The sound of the air conditioner hums, and the automatic door opening sometimes makes me jump. One evening at the beginning of the month, I noticed the presence of a strange man. He was tall, thin, with messy black hair as if it had never been combed. A worn gray jacket hung loosely over his shoulders. Every time he came in, he would stand at the back corner of the store, holding a bottle of water but never walking up to the counter. What was stranger was his gaze. He didn't just observe me but seemed to look right through me, like he wanted to read my thoughts. The more I saw him, the more I realized a pattern. He always came at 1 a.m., standing near the emergency exit, holding a bottle of water and staring. One night, while I was checking the shelves, I noticed the water bottles at the back corner were out of order, even though I had just arranged them not long ago. A feeling of unease washed over me when I discovered one bottle had been opened and placed slightly out of line, as if someone had intentionally left a clue. It wasn't just at the store. I began to feel like I was being watched even when I was at home. One night, just as I was about to turn off the lights and go to sleep, I heard soft footsteps outside the window. I held my breath and listened, but the sound vanished soon after. Another time, when I came home late, I noticed the front door was slightly open. I was sure I had locked it before I left. Nothing was missing inside, but the feeling of unease lingered. One night, as I walked to the parking lot, I caught a glimpse of someone standing in the far corner. When I turned back, the shadow was gone. Another time I found a piece of paper wedged under the windshield wiper of my car. It had nothing written on it, just a smudge of ink as if it had been wet. These events made me nervous, but I didn't dare tell anyone. One night, he came closer. "Is that your old Toyota in the parking lot?" His voice was hoarse and cold. I froze for a moment, then nodded. He didn't say anything more, just turned and left. After that, I didn't see him anymore. I felt a sense of relief, and life went back to normal. A month passed, and I almost forgot about the strange man. But one early morning when I went to my car after a shift, I noticed a large stain on the windshield. The car door seemed to have been opened. The driver's seat was pushed back, and the rearview mirror was askew. I told myself someone must have mistaken the car for theirs, but a feeling of unease still gnawed at me. 2 days later, I noticed a faint handprint on the car window. The fear grew, but I tried to reassure myself. That morning, it was freezing cold. I finished my shift at 6 a.m. and walked out to the empty parking lot. The early morning mist covered the Toyota, and when I got closer, my heart skipped a beat. Through the windshield, I saw a vague figure in the back seat. My hands trembled, but instead of running away, I picked up a metal rod nearby and slowly approached. I opened the car door, holding my breath. Inside, no one was there, just the familiar gray jacket lying on the back seat. I found a note in the jacket pocket. "Be careful. He's watching you." My heart stopped, and I rushed to lock the car, running into the store to call the police. When the police arrived, they found an old phone hidden in the jacket. The phone contained photos not just of me, but of 2 other women in town. One of them had gone missing a few months ago. But the story didn't end there. A week later, the strange man appeared in front of the store again, but this time he didn't look at me. He gave me a worried glance, walked closer and said, "Don't trust anyone who works here. Someone disappeared here before you came. Be careful with the one who always smiles at you." Before I could react, he walked away. That night, when I checked the security cameras, I saw someone else had appeared in the parking lot. A familiar figure was standing near my car. It was the store manager, Mr. Gary, someone I had always thought was kind and trustworthy. The police caught Gary red-handed, placing a tracking device on my car. It turned out he was dangerous, having been watching and abducting women in the town. He used his job at the store to pick out easy targets. The strange man, whom I had feared, was the one who had noticed the odd behavior and tried to warn me. Through the police investigation, I learned that the strange man had been falsely accused in a similar case before. He had tried to report it to the police but was ignored. Since then, he had acted alone, monitoring and warning people he believed were in danger. After the incident, I decided to quit my job at the store. One afternoon, while packing up my things, I received an anonymous letter in my mailbox. "Thank you for trusting me. Don't stop being vigilant." I never saw him again. But every time I think back to those nights working at the store, I wonder, if he hadn't shown up, would I still be here to tell this story? That evening, while cleaning my room, I turned on the TV and caught the news about the women who had been rescued in town. The police confirmed that Gary's arrest had dismantled a dangerous network, saving many lives before they became victims. I learned a big lesson. I never paid attention to the small details before. Now I understand that sometimes the smallest things can save your life. My story ends with safety, but the mental scars from those terrifying nights continue to remind me. Never ignore your feelings of unease. It might save your life. I'm Logan, 36. Moved back to my hometown in Texas after over 10 years of living in other states and trying out all kinds of jobs. Started everything from scratch, but it's all good. I'm fine and feeling optimistic about it all. For the past 3 months, I've been working at a Circle K near my place, doing both gas station attendant and cashier stuff in the store. The job's not hard, but it eats up almost my whole day. Sometimes I make mistakes when I'm working late for long stretches, or when the gas station and store get packed. I told my boss we should hire someone else so we can split shifts. A week after putting up the job ad, the store got a new employee named Benny. He's 7 years younger than me, tall and skinny, with green eyes under a mess of hair. He's really into his old Converse, worn out soles and covered in layers of dust. He always walked heavy, shoulders hunched, looking like a human clothes hanger. He always smelled kinda burnt. Wasn't bad, but it threw people off. Benny was quiet, just a few words to customers like hello and thanks. Even though Benny looked and acted kinda odd, his work attitude was solid, always on time and really detailed. Since Benny showed up, my job's been a little easier. But trouble hit after just 2 weeks. The store started noticing stuff going missing. Not sure when this started, but I only noticed when the stock and sales numbers were way off. So I told the boss. Benny and I are the first ones to take the fall for this. The boss just stayed calm when he heard what I had to say. There are security cameras in the store. Can you check the footage from the last 5 days to see if anything's weird? You're off tonight, and I'll pay you full. That's what the boss offered, and I had no reason to say no. Maybe I had been working for a long time, so he decided to trust me. Yep, Benny's weirdness made people around him feel like he was unpredictable. That night, I just chilled, did some stuff around the house, and ate. Then I crashed on the couch, popped open my laptop, and started checking the footage. 9:30, August 26th. Benny was at the register, messing with some random stuff. A few minutes later, a customer walked in, Anna. I know her, she's a regular. Anna grabbed a bottle of shower gel and a magazine. As soon as she left, another guy walked in, a tall brown dude. He grabbed something, I zoomed in, and saw it was a bottle of engine oil. For the next 20 minutes, no more customers came in, and Benny just stood at the register, not moving. I started yawning, and my eyes were getting super heavy. I left the laptop and pulled out my phone to scroll through a shopping site. It wasn't until I heard a noise that I remembered I was actually getting paid for this and focused back on it. Benny was arranging stuff in the freezer section. I watched him closely, and he wasn't doing anything weird. The customer bell rang again. Yep, it was Anna. She probably forgot something. Happens all the time. Shower gel and a magazine? I muttered when I saw what Anna was bringing to the counter. I was curious, but then I figured everyone's got their own thing they're into. As soon as Anna left, a tall guy with brown skin walked in. Wait! I yelled, sitting up straight. He earlier must have just been a coincidence. He probably wanted to buy something else. I mumbled. I was watching every move of that brown-skinned guy, and then... Engine oil? I said, reaching out to pause and zoom in to double-check. I got up, walked to the fridge, poured a glass of cold water, and drank it all. I was more awake, went back to the couch, put the laptop on my lap, and focused on watching. For the next 20 minutes, Benny was back to cleaning around. While he was by the freezer, the alarm went off again. I widened my eyes to see the customer coming in. Anna? I froze, my heart racing as she walked over to the toiletries counter. A bottle of shower gel and a magazine. That's what she had when she came to the register. I ran my hands through my hair and squeezed. I couldn't say a word, just stayed like that, letting the pain remind me that was real. As soon as Anna left, the brown guy showed up again. My heart was racing. Please, please, please. I silently begged him not to grab another bottle of engine oil, but what I wanted and what the guy did were totally different. "What the hell is going on?" I yelled when I saw what the guy bought for the third time. I looked at the time on the screen. It was still 9:30. I clicked on any part of the recording, and it still showed the same time. I slammed the laptop shut, ran to my room, locked the door, and stared at the clock all night, making sure time was actually moving. As soon as it was daylight, I was both excited and panicked, rushing to the store. Benny didn't show up to work today, and the boss couldn't get a hold of him either. I played the recording for him to see. Once again, the boss and I were stuck in some crazy time loop. The only people we could count on at that point were the police. While we waited for the police to figure things out, the boss and I took turns running the store and the gas station. I was always distracted, just constantly staring at the clock. 2 days after the boss reported it, the police showed up at the store. Based on what you told us, we looked into this young guy named Benny Mason. He's 27. The address he put on his resume is your store. Didn't you catch that? 6 years ago, this place was home to a family of 6. Sadly, the house caught fire and everyone inside died. The oldest son in the house was the only one they couldn't find. When the police checked the tape again, they noticed something weird. With each loop, Benny's shadow on the floor kept getting shorter until it just disappeared. What would you do if you found out that the person who just saved your life was an accomplice to the person who tried to kill you? My story begins on a rainy night in Ohio, where I became an unintentional witness to a pre-planned robbery. I'm Aaron, 28 years old. That day, I was driving to visit my parents. The familiar interstate became unfamiliar in the heavy rain. I decided to stop and rest for a bit. I remember it was after 10 p.m. I pulled into the parking lot of a Circle K convenience store near the highway exit. There was a truck and one other car in the lot. I ran inside the store. The cashier was a young man. He seemed surprised to see me. He kept staring at the door, his lips moving as if he was saying something. I nodded hello, and his smile was a bit forced. I thought it was strange, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I headed to the coffee machine. I filled a large cup with coffee and added cream and sugar. Suddenly, the cashier's voice blurted out, "Due to a technical issue, you have to leave now." I turned around, frowning. What kind of issue would he not announce when I walked in? I noticed his right hand was hidden under the counter. I was about to ask more questions when the door burst open. A tall man walked in. He wore a long black coat that covered most of his body and a ski mask that only showed his eyes. Rainwater dripped from his coat. He stood still for a second. Then he pulled a gun from his pocket and pointed it straight ahead. My heart felt like it stopped. The coffee cup fell from my hand. The robber quickly turned toward me. In just a few steps, he was on me. The cold gun barrel pressed against my temple. "Why are you here?" he hissed, looking very angry. At that moment, I thought this guy was an idiot for asking a customer why they were at a convenience store. But I couldn't argue with him. My legs felt like jelly, and I could barely stand. I put my hands up and kept begging him. "Don't do it!" The cashier suddenly spoke up. I saw no signs of fear on his face. Instead, he was staring at the robber. The robber froze. His eyes glanced backward, probably thinking about something. I didn't dare to move even an inch. Then he swore, lowered his gun, and quickly walked out the door. I stood there like a statue until the sound of an engine starting up and fading away. I collapsed, having to hold on to a shelf to keep from falling. The cashier sighed. his face down to avoid my gaze. "Call the police." My voice was shaking. "No need," the employee said, sounding exhausted. I froze, and when I tried to convince him further, he suddenly yelled, "Just go. Now." He stared at me with wide eyes. Then the next second, his expression changed to one of worry, and he held his head in his hands. Surprised by his strange behavior, I quickly left without saying anything else. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. It took 3 tries to unlock my car. I drove out of the parking lot and stopped at a gas station half a mile away. Sitting in my car, I pulled out my phone and called 911, reporting the whole incident. The police arrived at the Circle K 15 minutes later with 2 patrol cars. I led them back to the scene and recounted the entire incident. The cashier was still there, his face pale when he saw the police. I was asked to leave after the police had gathered enough information and my statement. As I walked out of the store for the second time that night, I still couldn't stop shaking. The cold sensation of the gun barrel against my temple was still vivid. 3 days later, the case was solved. I saw the information in the local newspaper. The police had arrested the robber at a motel 50 miles away. His name was Matt, and he had just been released from prison after serving a 3-year sentence for theft. Another shocking piece of information: he was the cashier's biological brother. In a deeper investigation, the police discovered they had been exchanging messages beforehand. The cashier would work the night shift alone, turn off the security cameras under the pretense of regular maintenance, and Matt would come in, clear out the cash register, and disappear. The cashier would then report to the company that he had been robbed, and the insurance money would be split in half after Matt lay low for a few months. The article also mentioned a coincidental witness who made the plan go awry. That was me. Matt was sentenced to 5 years in prison for armed robbery and making a death threat. The cashier received 18 months for being an accomplice and insurance fraud. Matt could have shot me in those tense seconds. I'm still not sure why the cashier stopped his brother at that moment. Maybe things had gone further than he had imagined, but for whatever reason, his words "don't do it" kept me alive.